Hey everybody, it's me. This is the Carl Experience, Season 2, Episode 21. I did not think I would make it to 21. This is my second attempt at this recording. As you can see, I'm in the girls' room again. Kind of didn't have a choice because they're doing other stuff. So, yeah, they're doing mother-daughter stuff, so I'm figuring I'm staying in here and getting this stuff recorded. Let me check this message real fast. Oh, okay. Anyway, welcome to the Carl Experience. I know it's yesterday. I had this stuff recorded the other day, or was it yesterday? And I received a phone call from somebody who should have texted me instead of calling me. And he laughed it off, but I told him he ruined 20 minutes of recording. Literally, I was 20 minutes into into the podcast, and he decided to just call and erase the entire thing. So I have to do this podcast. I have to do this version instead. It gave me time to evaluate some stuff and to write a script. And this episode that I just randomly picked today, is what constitutes disability or disabled versus being lazy. I know this topic is a bit of a far starter because there's so many diagnoses right now. But I'm gonna lay some shit on it, some shit, i.e., truth, on you because some of you need to hear it, others don't. Now, people who are mentally or psychologically challenged, and those bound to a wheelchair or have issues with the physiology of walking are okay to be on disability in my opinion. Now, the difference between physiological and just being lazy is I've seen instances where I've seen people try to walk who physically cannot pull off the act of walking. And I give those people props for even trying to walk. And just like me, I have issues when people tell me to run, I can't physiologically pull off the act of running because my ankle isn't like the normal ankle, which is in this socket, or it's supposed to be where you're slightly in a socket and your foot can move all around because that's, the way your foot's designed. My foot right now, my left foot, is like this. And literally, this is how it was illustrated to me by the orthopedic surgeon. My foot's like this. It's cased up in this, so I can't move it a whole lot at all. I have limited mobility in that foot. Ergo, I can't run because that requires a level of flexion that I don't have anymore. Have I tried to apply for disability after my incident? Yes, and I was turned down by lawyers who said that who said that my case wasn't good enough to get on disability, even with the PTSD and everything else. They're like, no, yours isn't severe enough, so we're not going to take you. Okay, glad to know, but try getting a job when you list PTSD, panic attacks, and all that other stuff is everything that comes with PTSD, including hypervigilance, because there are times where I'm at home, where I have to stop doing everything because my brain is going through the nasty possibilities, and then it goes back. And you have to let those slip through, apparently. But anyway, others that just want to have a monthly check guaranteed to pay their bills without working. These people will fake issues, do heavy research, and coerce others into playing along with the narrative. I'm sad to say that I have to report that even I, as smart as I am, have been coerced into helping an ex get on disability. I vowed never to help someone like that again. She wasn't disabled, just merely lazy and used to living with other people and okay with just letting everybody pay everything. This is true. I was duped. I felt it was in her best interest. Since I helped her get on disability, she in fact moved out after I gave her a trailer because I moved out. Then she moved out of said trailer, and then she moved in with one of her daughters, and she got bored, so she started working on her second or third job in of her entire life, and then because she was making so much money, she just decided to drop disability because she had to be lazy to work, and she decided that now being a grandmother, she now wanted to get up and work instead of being on disability, which I helped her get on. So now, if I hear she's on disability again, I just report that she's not disabled. She wasn't disabled in the first place. She was merely lazy, and while her mother wasn't all there upstairs, she wasn't completely a basket case drooling on herself. Her mother was okay with living in a van out in California, out in the lower LA, out in the southern LA area or something. And we chilled out for a while, but her mother was happy sleeping in their van, and we're talking everything in that van. They were pooping in a normal household trash receptacle and emptying it every day. I was like, literally, and they were making cigarettes and handing them out to all their homeless friends, even though apparently my ex's mother's boyfriend had a job. They felt it was their duty to help supply all the homeless people with cigarettes. Um, for me, I went to California with my ex, and probably had the worst time of my life being around their kind of people. When we got around the kind of people I usually hang around, uh, people who aren't so bogged down and disillusioned by the system that they can operate. Yeah, I fixed my collar. It was bugging me. I just now noticed it was off. um, yeah, went to the beach, saw a buttload of normal people, and I ended up waiting past where I was supposed to because I was on a boogie board. I went out to where the surfers usually are and found out I wasn't supposed to be there. I found out from one of the lifeguards, but I got to see a lot of nice bodies shaking around, so I'm not going to complain too much. But yes, she was on disability. I helped her get on disability, and I have seen so many people that need to be on disability that aren't on disability. Uh, Excuse me. And I've also seen people that do not need to be on disability who are whiny brats because they don't want to work. Well, my mom didn't work, or my grandma didn't work. Different era of society. Now, I have friends on both sides of the spectrum. I know plenty of people who are on disability who don't need to be on it, and people who are on it that need to be on it. And there are also people who should be on disability who aren't on it. As an adult, I've always had a problem with able-bodied and able-minded people being on disability. Being just plain lazy is something I never understood after 1990. Before 1990, from like 1980 when I was born to 1990 when I was 10, yeah, my grandmother called me a porch monkey, which I didn't know was racist until I watched Clerks 2. I had no idea. Literally. I called my own kids porch monkeys, and people used to look at me funny. I had no idea why until I saw the movies. Like, really? That's racist? My grandmother used that to describe me because I'd sit on the porch just to watch people instead of going out and doing stuff. So they got called a porch monkey. And if anybody here has a problem with me saying porch monkey, my grandmother called it to me. I grew up with porch monkey being what lazy people did, or what I was doing, sitting on a porch when I was a kid, just staring at people, not doing a damn thing. That, to me, growing up was a porch monkey, not a racist terminology. So if you have a problem with that, well, I can't help you with that. I didn't grow up with overt racism like that because while my mother knew all the slurs, she didn't use any of them until we were much, much older. We were teenagers before my mom started using colorful metaphors of the racial disparities. Now, speaking of people I know who have been on disability or whatnot, my history with it. Um, Back in 2000 or so, I had an ex. Her name was Nancy. She was 32 to somewhere between 32 and 36 years old. She had kids of her own who were living in the system and an ex. I saw the pictures of her kids, and we were friends with benefits, you might say. I really wouldn't call it dating. I was literally just coming. I was being brought up to Newton to have fun for the weekend with her, and we were only together for like not even 2 months, and most of that 2 months we were together, when we were actually together, was spent uh, having fun in adult manners. But she was on disability, and the way that she had three other roommates because she had a four-bedroom place. Her roommates came and went as they pleased, all that nice crap. Most of them stayed to their room because we are talking about like 2001 to maybe 2003. I think it was 2001 to 2002. But I went home with her on the first night. We had fun. Uh, and then I started coming over on certain weekends when she didn't have her kids. For some reason, she was afraid to have me over when her kids were there. So I never met her children. But I found out on the second to last weekend I was there that her ex, who was a darker complected man, let's just put it that way. I suppose I could say black because I really don't give a shit about the connotations of using black or African American. But I guess you say, yeah, just say he was black, and he was dressed up in some sort of weird fucked up tracksuit or some shit. I don't recall. I was a little preoccupied with what I was doing and what we were doing, what her and I were doing, as opposed to what he was doing. But he walked in on us in the act, and she was busy screaming at me that for some reason he kept a key. She thought she got the key from him, so I went ahead. He entered the house, got right in front of the door, stripped down to nothing, got himself aroused, and then entered the room, not knowing what the hell was going on. According to the conversation that she had with him a few months later, he thought she was using a vibrator, and yeah, he ended up getting kicked out. I got the key out of his pocket, threw all of his clothes outside, so he was outside, naked as a jaybird, in Newton. And yeah, she was on disability because she couldn't psychologically deal with a lot of things. She still can't. And now she's gray-haired and looking for love because apparently people who are mentally unstable can't find stable love. Go figure that one. Okay, next up was Loretta Willits, who used to be one of my friends on Facebook until a couple years ago because she hasn't improved at all. She likes her a lot in life to the point it's stupid. Kind of find out after I broke up with her. I was only dating her for a few months, and I think it was 3, maybe 6 months. Was friends with her for several years afterwards, but we're talking like 20 years ago. But I found out after I broke up with her that she wanted to be a horse. Like running on all fours, neighing like a horse. She had this fetish this weird fantasy for horses. I don't know if she's a furry or not. You'll have to look up what furry means. I don't really want to explain it on this podcast. Not this episode, anyway. But, yeah. She was on disability because she was clearly off her rocker. And I talked with her mother, and her mother is... I see why my ex is the way she is because of her mother. Her mother and her father... Her mother claimed she was... her mother claims that she was raped, and that's how that's how Loretta was born. But I wasn't there, and her mother's not all there, and her mother is one of those people that just wanted to be a hippie. She missed out on the hippie era somehow, but Loretta herself she wanted male attention, and the only way to get male attention with every guy she was getting with at that time, every guy successively that she got with, she was putting out on the first date. She was doing what they wanted to do on the first date, which, being 20 or 21, whatever the case may be. I think it was 20 back then. She liked getting with guys and doing whatever they wanted to keep for them to stay there. She was even married to a guy. And apparently, even he said she put on the first date. I mean, she was doing everything on the first date that he wanted to do. But she was mentally unstable. Just like when and my life goal, one of my goals at that point was to become a bicycle repairman, which I already was. I was just unsure of how to go about it professionally, let alone I was building houses at the time and stuff. So I was busy during the week, so we had to get together during the weekends. I was also tearing trannies apart, as I remember back then, too. But, yeah. Then, let's see. We go down to, then in between there, I had to deal with this chick in Newton, who was a friend of my ex, Nancy. This chick weighed at 400 pounds back then. 400 pounds, an abusive ex named Earl. Yes, the Dixie Chicks song, the country Dixie Chicks song, Earl Had to Die, that was her theme song. Every one of her friends sang it because apparently he was an abusive a-hole or whatever. The problem was she was constantly talking about getting on disability. That way she could have extra money at the end of the month and didn't have to work for it, and it would be just so much easier not to have to work. Because then she could just lay in bed all day when she doesn't feel good and all this other crap. And it's not fair how some people get on disability, but she can't get on it. So she basically grew up a pampered, sheltered, lazy, whiny bitch. She could do work. She didn't want to work. It's really sad. And the same goes for Nicole Halls. You can look her up on Facebook too. I don't give a rat's ass because I'm not the one sleeping with her. Nicole Halls, she's a friend of the guy. She's an ex-wife of the guy I used to work with when we were junking and making a buttload of money. But yeah, she was able-bodied and able-minded, but set on being on SSI because, as she put it, it was security. She never had to worry about where the money was going to come from to pay her bills. Unless I'm mistaken, I believe she made it on she got on SSI, but I'm not sure. But she was buying all these women were looking up various things. Well, Loretta and Nancy didn't, but everybody else was buying medical books, looking up conditions. Psychopathies, psychoses, everything that would keep them on disability. They were actually researching what they could possibly have that would exclude them from normal work. Do I approve of this? No, I don't. Work. Get off your dead ass and work. Just because you don't like working doesn't mean I don't like working either. I'd rather stay. I'd rather do a butt ton of other things, but we still have to work. I have woodworking, tattooery, and other such stuff. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, no, it's been a weird week. I spent all day yesterday doing uh, random things, but yeah, I get to that here at the end of this deluge of things. Um, yeah, with Nicole Halls, she had back when I first met her, her daughter was like 3 or 4 or something. She was just barely old. Her kid was just barely older than my kids. She wasn't pregnant with her second kid yet, so she had a model's body, but not the brains. And kind of find out, she thought because her dad and her brother made a lot of money that she could go off and do the same thing. She should be the brains of everything. And so, like the business that my partner and I started years and years ago, she decided she was going to be the brains of that. She found out that she had to and she ended up finding out that she had to wake up at oh my god o'clock in the morning because usually I was up at like 5 or 6 a.m. get my kids off to school and then I'm ready to go to work. Whereas his wife then, Nikki, she would sleep in until like 11 or 12 because she felt the need to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning and party with all the other adults and do whatever the hell she wanted to do. She wasn't, she didn't have enough experience, and then apparently she got up and started running things like she wanted to run them, and we got to the point where I literally looked at dude and I'm like, yeah, this ain't happening. If she's here, because she was keeping track of the books and everything like that, and at one point she suggested that I take over the business and give them 60% of all the profit. Okay, on a business that he and I started together, and we split everything 50-50 because we were junking at the time, and we were junking appliances, so there was no need for him to keep money back for a title work because he used to junk cars back then too. But she thought because her dad and her brother were intelligent, so was she. That doesn't always work out. So when he asked me, because she told him that I should be running the business, and them getting 60% for staying at home doing not a damn thing. Originally, I was to keep 30, they were to keep 70. Oh hell no! When you get paid, the first thing that comes out is expenses, gas, oil, repairs to any vehicle, filling the gas tank up, all that crap. I'm not going to take that out of my 30%. I'll take that out of their 70%. But yeah, we ran like that for 2 weeks, and then he finally told me, "Run it the way you want." It's like, dude, if I run it the way I want it because you're not working anymore, just because you have a vehicle doesn't mean you come pick me up, take me to your house, and then I take the vehicle you pick me up in and go out and work all day while you sit at home not doing a damn thing except keeping your wife in order or in line. Because even watching her kids for 3 hours a day was overwhelming. Yeah, not buying it, not touching it, not even going to touch that crap. But I told him that a 30-70 split wasn't going to happen because straight off the top, gas, repairs, paying people, paying everybody but us came first. He's like, "Well, I got to keep a certain profit, dude. You can go off and do. You can do go off. You don't have to pick me up every morning. You can stay at home and sleep in. You're gonna lose money at it, but you can do that. After everything else is paid, whatever's left over is profit." And his problem is he was trying to he was a con man, so he was conning people out of a buttload of money because he always knew I was going to be on his ass. I knew how much everything was worth. I knew how much money it made, so he couldn't con me into that stuff. And it was rather funny because once I told one, at the end of the 2 weeks when he said we're going to revert back to the old business model of 50-50, that way we don't have any of these issues. Because I was running a crew of 200 guys in the truck, and yeah, I was coming home with like maybe $50 a day. In the old system, I was coming home with uh, $200+ a day. I was making somewhere like $200 a day just on vehicles. I was getting paid $20 per car, and I was the tow vehicle. So yeah, this whole business model we had before she interjected her nose worked. Then when we ended it, she was mad because they went from having loads of cash to now they had to actually stop eating at Cheddar's and all these nice restaurants every night because she wanted to go out and eat at certain places with her boobs hanging out, with her cooter hanging out of her shorts. She wanted to show off the fact that they had money, and she didn't have to worry about dressing a certain way. Well, there are certain restaurants you have to dress a certain way, not with your not looking like a call girl. But she wanted to make money for doing nothing. She wanted to get most of the money from the junking business that he and I ran, without the business know-how of how to do so. Now, then there's my ex Cherie, who was able-bodied and minded, but again wanted to be on this side for that security crap. And honestly, towards the end of our relationship, when I left her, she was out of the bars all the time, and I was at home stuck watching the kids, and they were my kids. She was like, well, you're destroying my family. When I broke up with her, she's like, you're destroying my family. I was like, what family? You go out 5 nights a week. You leave at 7 p.m. and you don't come back till 3 or 4 a.m. because you're hanging out with all these people. Well, you're not a parent. You're just here to slump and then move on. She, as of right now, I think she's held like 4 jobs in her entire life. I wish I could say I've had that few jobs in my life, but I've had to work harder. Now, with the exception of Nancy and probably Loretta, all these ladies had nothing wrong with them that would prevent them from working other than wanting an income they didn't earn or deserve. Now, we all know those people who should be on disability who can't function properly in society. And this is going to sound mean, but I've got a brother who's mildly mentally retarded, so we throw the retard word around a lot. Not offensively. Not unless somebody really deserves it. But, like with my kids, especially my older ones, when they're like, well, I did this, so why did you do something so stupid? I mean, are you retarded? And they're like, well, I'm not retarded, Dad. I know, but you're making the same choices that a special needs kid would make. Well, I'm not that dumb. Obviously, something must not equate with that, because if you're making bad choices, knowing that they're going to have bad consequences, that leads me to believe that you're thinking like a retard, like you've got an extra gene in there somewhere that you don't need. Well, I get excuses every time they make bad decisions, but I mean to bolster them, and for a lot of these people, they just weren't pushed. Like my brother was found face down in a pool when he was a toddler, and he suffered mild brain retardation, so he was considered an unnatural idiot. He was born perfectly normal, but because of that issue, now he has mild brain retardation. And when we were growing up, we got to a certain point to where my dad was involved with my younger sister's activities, and then it's almost like he just gave up on parenting. He got to the point where where my little sister had almost graduated high school, and my brother would have been the next year. My dad just kind of gave up, and he was also trying to spark a fire between him and one of his exes from back in high school while still married to my mom. Now, had my dad not been so busy trying to get a piece of ass and actually worked on parenting my little brother probably would have made it a lot farther. But my dad, when my brother was younger and he was going through puberty, my dad was going through his wild, stupid drinking phase, where him and his friend would come over and drink a case of beer apiece every damn weekend. They'd come over and just they would hit up the nudie bars and every play. They hit up the strip clubs, everything. Then come home after spending all that money, tipping the waitresses and getting drunk, and we'd be left in destitution because my dad was too busy paying dancers and blowing money on overpriced beer and overpriced ladies instead of spending the time with his 4 kids and wife. But that's why I think it's messed up. But I've seen so many lazy damn people get on disability. It's not even funny. I've seen people who need to be on disability who are like, well, I can't get on it. Literally, they legitimately should be on it. I've seen women who wig out. And the troubling part for me is I'm running into this more and more nowadays, is to where they have one slight incident. Like, there's a chick I met not that long ago who she was punched in the face once on accident. And now she's applying for disability. She's gone to drugs. And I've had to disassociate with her because she is too toxic a person for me to be around. She's now suffering, and now she claims she's suffering from severe PTSD. She has panic attacks, anxiety attacks, breathing, hypervigilance. She sounds like she read through the whole PTSD handbook and watched some drug addicts go at it. So it seems to me as though she studied their habits and then started just copying them so that she would fit in to get on disability. Now, me, I have PTSD. It might be, you might consider it low grade, but I still have panic and anxiety attacks, hypervigilance, the whole list, I can't have flashbacks. I can't have flashbacks of the event because I don't remember the event at all. That part of my memory is gone. But like my sister's ex-husband's girlfriend, I don't know if they're married or not, but her grandfather died. And she claims to have PTSD. She claims to have PTSD from that. Just from her grandfather dying. I wouldn't have a problem with that, except I lost my grandmother back in the early 90s. Somewhere between 90 and 93. Kind of hard to remember. I'd have to look it up. I've got Ancestry, so I can look that up. But I lost her, and she was the only person who could beat me at Wheel of Fortune and a couple of other games, because I was beating everybody at it. My grandmother died, and it hurt, but it didn't cause PTSD. I lost my grandfather Cunningham back in 1987. Watched him die on the couch. Don't have PTSD. But why I don't have PTSD is probably more likely the issue because of how I was brought up. But this person who tells me she's got PTSD from her grandfather dying, I'm not buying that. You know how many people have had good relationships with their grandparents, and their grandparents died. I mean, my grandma Barbara died, what is it, almost 2 years ago? I miss her immensely. That lady had more gumption in one finger than most people do nowadays. But when she died, it hurt me. I broke down. This is a woman who helped raise me to be independent and self-sufficient. I told her I wanted money to go. I told her I wanted money to get ice cream from the ice cream truck. So what does she do? She has my grandpa died, built me a lemonade stand so I could sell lemonade to make money to buy a bike. 2 weeks later, I had the bike that I wanted. Little Spider-Man 18-inch bike. I learned how to bike in 2 weeks. I wanted that bike so bad, and because I did it so fast and kept selling lemonade, eventually my grandmother got tired of making the lemonade for me, so she stopped making it. I shut down the stand, and she used the extra money that I hadn't used, apparently, to buy me a guitar, which I never played, because I was too busy playing as a kid. Now, anyway, I don't believe that this chick had PTSD simply from her grandfather dying. And then she talks about her grandfather was in the military and he was put in jail falsely before he died, but he died when she was young. And then her dad was a sheriff's officer who was framed and arrested, and he spent, I think it was, she said, he spent like 18 years in jail and then he died. I'm not going to buy all that because apparently this same chick who's got a father who died when she was older, but her grandfather's death who caused PTSD, also has two uncles who are the highest ranking military members in the United States Navy. So I asked her what her uncles' names were. Looked up the highest ranked military members in the Navy. Nobody even comes close to the rank she's talking about, and then she tried throwing out a rank. It's like, that's actually really low in the Navy. But she's on disability because she's just flat out fucking crazy. So, this dogs being pains in the asses. But, yeah, now it's come time for other things. And I will be completing this podcast here shortly. I have to take a break because I got to get out there so my wife can get to work on time. Then I'll record the second half of this. And yeah, hopefully it should be more interesting. So, all right. Back to where I was, I think. I got to take over the living room again because wifey left at work and Monkey's in there watching cartoons finally. She was playing with her Legos for the longest time. But, yeah, back to what we were discussing here, because for me it's been like 2 or 3 hours since I was talking. But, as I was saying before, the chick that claims to have gotten PTSD from watching her grandfather die at a very young age, I don't believe her in the slightest. She lies constantly. She does a lot of things that are contrary to PTSD. And I don't see it as a positive thing because if you're claiming you have PTSD, you have certain symptoms, you freak out. She overreacts in such a way that I was watching her cry one time and I started explaining to my wife what stages she was going through, and I said, I was saying these stages quite loudly, that way she could hear me, and then I said, and now she should start oinking like a pig. And the chick started oinking like a pig, and then when I told her to stand up and stop crying, she acts like she's doing all this crap, and, she stands up, and she's still wailing. Only problem is her face is completely, there's not discoloration in her face at all. There's no tear stains. Her skin's not warm and soft from tears. She had literally faked having a fit. And I don't go for that. I don't buy that being on there. But there are many people I know who are now on disability. Well, I don't know shit tons of them, but I know enough of them that it generally pisses me off because I'm like, why are you on disability? Because I needed the security. Why not go out and work? I don't know if I can work. That's when you go get a job and find out. I mean, hell, in 1992 when I was 12, I went out and cleaned, and I asked the lady that ran the laundromat if I could help her clean the laundromat for money. At 12, mind you, she's like, okay, you help me out and I'll give you a quarter for every time you help me clean. So I would come there with, all the laundry my parents sent me with, and while the clothes were doing their thing, I would be busy cleaning the laundromat. After I got done with cleaning all that, she gave me a quarter, and I spent it on the pinball machine. Well, needless to say, within a few weeks, I got really good at pinball. Obviously, I didn't want to waste that quarter on not knowing how to play the game. Honey, bed. Wife's dog. But it generally irks me that some people, according to a guideline I read 10 to 16 years ago, is that if you were in excess of 300 pounds and you were like 5'5", you were eligible to be on disability because you were fat. And a lot of people, women and men, both started getting fat, and then they're claiming that they can't get up and work out because they're too fat. Well, you got fat to get on disability, and now you're overweight and wonder why. Well, and no, I'm not saying that being overweight is a bad thing all the time, but when you use it as, well, I can't do this because I'm fat, then change it. If all the people who complain about they can't do stuff with their kids because they're overweight, fix it. I mean, if I could fix my ankle, and by the way, just so you know, right before I started recording this, I was in the kitchen filling up my daughter's water cup. It's got a light up bunny on the top. It's, plastic. It's got a crazy straw going down in it. An ordinary thing to do. In the middle of me taking the lid off, something in my foot moved, and I went into so much pain that I about screamed. Knowing that my 6-year-old doesn't need to hear that, I simply had to bellow a few times for my daughter to come out, and she went ahead and brought out my cane. So now for the rest of the day, I will be using a cane. Am I proud of that? No. But I'm glad she's old enough to help me out. I am. Otherwise, I would have been literally crawling across the floor getting my cane. That's the kind of pain level I'm at. I mean, even if I put a brace on it, it's not going to do anything. I don't know what the problem is, but it's the first time I think that that's happened. I mean, I might be able to remember another time where it happened, but this time was very specific. My wife left for work like an hour ago, and yeah, it was painful. So yeah, I'm not in perfect shape, but I have a cane. If it gets too bad, I need to go to the store. Well, that's when I have my daughter walk with me in a wheelchair. I will have her walk beside me while I wheel myself to the store if need be. I can still get around. I'm still mobile. But yeah, I've met people who researched illnesses, faked disorders. Like there's this chick who she spent 3 years learning how to count up to 10,000 just so she could track or claim that she was tracking every step she took. after 3 years, she finally got on disability. Once she was on disability, stopped counting, period. Terrible at math. I mean, she went from not knowing any algebra to being a whiz at algebra. I mean, you could put an algebra equation in front of her and she'd have the damn thing figured out in like 10 seconds. Me, you put algebra in front of me, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. I don't do the variables. I'm not good at math. I mean, I can run my own business and I can do business deals. I can tell you if something's a good deal. But as far as actually doing math, no. There's not a chance. Hold on a second. Get another piece? Okay. You want to get that big piece? Are you just going to take the first piece you get, huh? Alrighty, love you. Alright, close your door, please. Thank you. Okay, yeah. But, yeah, people who've been through a violent ordeal like my car wreck or my daughter's biological mother, she got on disability, but then again, she had, and we were at she had an incident at at an event we were at that ended very badly for most of us. And so she ended up on disability and making all sorts of bad decisions after the decision. Hold on, I gotta respond to this jackass before he interrupts the podcast. Oh, it's hard to type sideways, you know that? But yeah, people who have been beaten, battered, broken, and suffer from like battered woman syndrome or battered man syndrome, I get that. The hardest thing for me growing up was learning to deal with everything, because when I was growing up, my dad didn't let, if you sit and moped and cried about stuff, my dad gave you the first day or so to whine. Then after like 3 days, like, okay, time to get the fuck up, time to get up and go do everything else. Can't spend forever moaning. And yeah, I get that there are some differently traumatic things like being molested, which I would never wish on anybody except the people who do the molesting. Rape, getting the crap beat out of you without you having deserved it, auto accidents, where you're not at fault. Somebody literally, for me, I was hit by an SUV, so should I be on disability? Most likely, yes. Am I on disability? No. Just like when I went to apply for unemployment, I tried it once, and then they said, "Oh, you got turned down." I don't. If they don't think I'm worthy of unemployment the first time, and then everybody tells me months later, "Oh, you should have kept on going," they always turn you down. I've never had unemployment. I don't know what the hell that's like. So for me, it's like, you get turned down once, move on, do something else. And so, yeah, that's why whenever it's like, well, you've never collected unemployment. No, I've never collected unemployment. Not even when I had my job for 2.5 years at Home Depot. I tried for unemployment. They turned me down. Yeah. It's not my fault everybody in Hell and Creation is trying to screw with the system. Like when I thought about applying for disability because of the car wreck, I spent some time thinking about it, and finally my wife's like, "You're waiting too long. You should do it now." I did it, and then nobody would take on my case because they said I was too high functioning. Well, high functioning doesn't excuse the fact that even when I used to bike to work, because we lost the SUV and then I was biking to work, I was still having panic attacks. There were entire sets where my brain would see me getting clobbered by a truck from falling off the bike, and I would roll to the road, get run over, split up into a bunch of pieces, and all sorts of ungodly stuff. Hold on, guys. I need to get up and check. What is making that damn noise? Oh, that's funny as hell. That noise you're hearing, if you can hear it in the background, there's a dude who is in a car wreck or some crap, and his bumper is falling off of his car. So he's dragging his bumper while he's trying to park where he's supposed to be. So if you can hear that noise in the background, that grinding noise, that's his bumper trailing him. It's hanging on by like one bolt. So, okay. Now that excitement's over. Yeah. Do I believe that people that are necessarily slower than the rest of us need to be on disability? No. I know some people who are a lot slower than me, and they're not on disability. I also know some people who are a lot slower than me who are on disability, who don't get pushed because their parents baby them. Just like with my little brother, my dad just decided to start babying him, just throw money at him. And I don't believe that's right. I mean, when I was in middle school, I wanted to sleep because I was going through growth spurts. My dad didn't let me sleep. I fell asleep once watching a movie, and my dad whooped my ass. And I mean, I could not sit down. He smacked me he gave me a good slap at the back of my head. And he slapped me again to get me up out of the chair. Then when I got up, he hit me, started hitting me with his hickory sorority board. Which, needless to say, is not the funnest thing on the planet to feel against your butt. Every time I'd be close to passing out, it was do something else. Yet when my brother hit the same stage, oh, he's okay, because my dad was home for his. You know, he'd come home and pass out, and my dad's like, oh, he's a growing boy. Dad, I was growing 10 too. He didn't let me sleep 6 hours. Because my brother was special, he got to sleep, and I didn't. Some people would say that probably did stunt my growth, and it might have. But I got pushed and my brother didn't. Just like with so many of these people that are slower, I found that in certain cases, if you push them, they'll surprise you. Well, I can't do, I've been around people that are 40, 50, and 60 years old. So I can't do this because they were conditioned a certain way, and they don't want to have their world rocked anymore than it already has been. Unless they want to change, it ain't going to happen. But for others, who if you just give them a slight push, ever so much, that little slight push turns into a whole life-changing experience because they find out their limits aren't what they thought they were. But as far as the people trying to pull con jobs, I don't appreciate those people. Those people don't need to be on disability. They need to get up off their dead ass, get a job, and work. Now, given the pandemic situation, it's a little different, but nowadays, for instance, we have so many people that are now suffering from, a lot of people who say they're suffering from fibromyalgia. And this condition has been around for a long time, but there are people who spend 20 years going to doctors just to get one person to tell them what they supposedly have. My problem with that is the people who doctor shop. They go around to doctor after doctor after doctor looking for a negative prognosis that will prove their case for disability. Now, my wife's aunt, who has fibromyalgia, she also has a cage in her spine. I've seen the x-rays. I almost threw up when I saw those, and I've got an iron stomach. This lady is in more pain than I'll ever be, I will probably ever be in my life for the most part. Ow! Try to move my foot there. It doesn't feel very good. But yeah, this lady's going to be in pain for the rest of her life, and she deals with pain quite well considering how much pain she's in. Other people complain about their joints hurting. I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of ladies who are overweight, and then they complain about their joints hurting. Well, when you're 450 pounds and you're 5 foot nothing, and you try to move with all that fat on it, you're going to have difficulty moving. That's just the way that is. You can't weigh 450 pounds to 500 pounds at 5 foot and, have these barrels of fat on your arms and all this other crap that aren't supposed to be there, and you complain about moving. Well, you've got to do something else. But for this new wave of people who talk about, what is it, limb neuropathy? I'm not going to say foot neuropathy, but extremities neuropathy, tingling of the hands, feet, all this other crap. Well, when you sit down all day and you just bitch and moan because you can't do anything, but you're on the phone all the time and you don't get up, well, that's kind of behind that. No, I'm not saying that if you were with somebody for a while and it beat the crap out of you, you don't have PTSD. Because I'll give you, I should have been diagnosed with PTSD back then from my oldest mother. But yeah, it becomes an issue. I have issue with those people who don't need to be on it. The people who are just lazy and want to continue being lazy, and for the people who wake up in pain every morning because they're overweight and they complain about it just hurts all over. I'm not that overweight. Shut the light off and close the door. Now, I'm a little overweight. I'm not like morbidly obese. I'm like 50 pounds overweight, which I gotta lose. But it's almost discouraging when they tell me they're waking up in pain. And after my wreck, what, monkey? Monkey! Why is your door swinging at all? Close it. Close your door. And sit down in your chair. But yeah, ever since my accident, every single morning I've woken up, and I mean every single morning, since I woke up after October 3rd, 2016, I've woken up in pain. Sometimes it's harder than others to get out of bed, but every morning I still get out of bed. Every single morning. It hurts. I'm not going to disqualify you out of the realm of pain, but it hurts every morning to get up. Every morning when I get up, I'm in pain. Every single morning. It's not fun. But I get up. I do what I can. When school was in session, I was getting Monkey up, getting her dressed, getting her ready, taking her to breakfast, and then walking her to class, and then coming back home. I was waking up at 6:30 in the morning, doing all this, and I finally get home about 8:15. At that point, I think I'd get myself like a hot cappuccino, from the powdered cappuccino mix, and hit up a breakfast burrito, or eat a raw potato, something, just something to keep something to put the gas in the tank. And then I'd stay up and watch a little bit of news and then pass out, or just go back to bed. And yes, every day I hurt. So I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying it does hurt every day I get up. But I get to get up. And right now my foot is killing me. Like literally everything from my ankle down to my toes hurts. Don't know why. I think I might have pinched a nerve or some weird thing, but I figured out I want to get this podcast out of the way before I started that. Now, for those, we're going to get off of this subject now for the moment. because I'm pretty sure I'm going to get stacks of shit for having brought up the subject. But I'm going to bring up another controversial subject just to cap off what you may or may not have missed. We're all being encouraged to wear face masks. Republicans are blaming Democrats. Democrats are blaming Republicans. Those of my friends who actually think clearly and nonpartisanly, for the most part, are seeing all these little gaps and holes and loopholes. Now, what really people are throwing out the fact that this disease is going to become this shit is going to keep cycling around, that it may come back every year. I don't think so. You may disagree with me. You don't have to like what I say, but you're listening. And I'm not dispelling hordes of medical experts. But I found out that when I found out that Dr. Fauci, President Trump's pandemic specialist, when I found out that Trump was trying to pass that hydrochlora, whatever the hell it is, when they were trying to pass that as a shot, possibly for COVID-19, I was thinking, okay, who gives a damn? This stuff doesn't have a vaccine yet at all. Then I come to find out, Dr. Fauci is getting kickbacks because he owns stock in the company that makes the hydrochlor or whatever. He actually gets kickbacks from that. If it wasn't for that, I might buy into it a little more, but I'm still not buying the Kool-Aid. And as some of you know, I posted the actual COVID numbers for the state, the county, and then the city that I live in. And what is it, a week ago? Excuse me. A week ago, your chances of getting COVID in this state, if you were in this city, in Wichita, Kansas, your chances of dying from COVID were 0.0054. So not even 1/10 of 1% were dying. And I already come to expect the number to be bloated because of deaths being counted that aren't COVID, that are being counted as COVID direct deaths. So, y'all, everybody can argue with me. I mean, I've got people who don't agree with me, one way, and the others who agree with me, who don't agree with me the other. I'm not going to wear a mask because I'm very low risk. If I'm carrying it, I'm not getting it, so I'm not going to be that worried about it. Do I wash my hands when I need to? Do I wear a mask? No. In my opinion, I'm being sequestered to quarantine myself and self-isolate myself for a disease or for a virus that I am not likely to get, let alone ever likely to suffer from. I've already done the number crunching, and quite frankly, the numbers are so small. I mean, if it was even a 10 to 15% chance, and yes, I did the numbers nationwide as well. No, we're not even close to 10% at all in this country. In fact, if you take out the inflated numbers where the person had COVID but didn't die from it, I'm sure the numbers would fucking go down a lot. And I'm not trying to be political here. That's why I'm not trying to throw in any politicians. But a fascist state is one where we all know the numbers, yet people act idiotic anyway. Like, we have and this is what surprised me, in our government, we have a bunch of baby boomers, people who were born in 1964 and before. And they're the ones running everything, or basically everything, and hold the highest positions of power. And they're the ones stating we need to lock down, use face masks, wash your hands, all the stuff we were doing before. They're not wearing masks. Most of them aren't. And most of them aren't social distancing. So we're all we're all being put under quarantine for something that's more likely to kill them than it is us. Explain to me where the hell the logic is in that. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. Now, the only other thing I want to point out is just something, because I literally saw this today and I was thinking, what in the hell? I've heard political dissidents on both sides, and I just laugh at all of it. Literally every little bit of it. I was listening to a thing today, and they asked President Trump about former Barack Obama and his response about Trump doing something. And he literally said Obama was an incompetent president. He was completely incompetent. He shouldn't have been running the country. I'm not going to say he's wrong. But I will say, look at the fine mess we're in right now. When Obama was in office, as a retrospective, we had Ebola. It was such a small thing. Could they have locked the entire country down like they're doing now? Could they have? Yes. Did they? No. They didn't even come close to that. We weren't even told about it until it was an epidemic level. And it wasn't even epidemic levels. But our lives weren't completely frozen by a bunch of old farts who are afraid to lose their power. That's what worries me. Is, like, I reported on this crap when it first started up, and I said to use your brains, and a lot of people aren't. And I've got hordes, and I'm not joking, I mean hordes of people telling me, well, I've got this many, I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 years in the medical industry. And this is the worst I've ever seen it. And a few of these people, quite a few in fact, have stated that they've got these medical certifications from the 80s. What? Okay. Hurry up and get it. But yeah, there are some people who have had these certifications from the 70s and 80s and 90s, and a couple of them were locked up or incarcerated for a certain amount of time, and all of a sudden they're experts. Now, if you were an expert in the field, 25 years. If the last time you were an expert in the medical field was 25 years ago, and then you got incarcerated and you got out, and you're an expert all of a sudden, no. 25 years, you have to go back to fucking school. I'm not an immunologist, so I'm not going to tell you that a PhD in somebody who got their PhD in immunology 25 years ago, but remained active in that field, needs to go back, because no, they're at the forefront of their field. They're at the forefront. Now, that's like me going to a car mechanic who hit like 18, 25 years of age, got busted for stealing a car, spent 30 years in pen, and then comes out and he's an expert in cars. Well, when he went into prison, they didn't have fuel injection. Now, they have fuel injection. Hell, they have smart cars. He's no longer an expert. He's an expert in antiques now. So yeah, I'm working off of basic science here, nothing else. Basic science, stuff we learn in elementary school. And while I wasn't very good at math in school at all, I went into a percentage calculator and did all the percentages, which I need to do again. And redo the numbers, which are only going to shift slightly. We've had literally, like, since we opened up, we've had 25 deaths. And 25 deaths is not even 1% when you consider the numbers of the state. Because we're like 2 point something million people in this state? And just in this state is like over 2 million. So you compare that to almost 200 deaths, we're not even at 1% yet. Not even. We're still well below that. Then you take all the deaths in all the counties, and it might, but where statewide deaths are still below 200. Now, with that having been said, our president, the president, I didn't vote for him, but he's still the president. He's not my president, but he's the president of the United States. This president is saying that the president before him was incompetent and unsuitable for the job. Newsflash, so is Trump. He is, anybody who doesn't agree with him wholeheartedly and go along with his boat, oh, they're crazy. I didn't like him that much, didn't see him that much. The evidence is all over the news, and I'm not even coming close to being coming close to being anti-Trump. I'm literally looking at the facts. Yes, I'm adding a little bit of satirical side commentary, but we got a check, even though we had an H&R Block card. We got a paper check with Trump's name on it. Ironically enough, it had his name in printed form, Times Roman numeral, or whatever's on checks. The person who signed the check was not Trump. We got a letter thanking us for participating in the stimulus check program. And it still doesn't know how the hell Trump's signature is the way it is. But that's for another podcast. You guys need to stay safe. Of course, wash your fucking hands. I'm not advocating for face masks because when you have face masks, okay, in Wuhan, China, in China and Japan, people wear face masks. A lot of people wear face masks. And more than 10% of them get sick when a pandemic breaks out. The people wearing the face masks still get sick. To put that in perspective, that's like you trying to wear, that's like you trying to put up a chain link fence to stop mosquitoes from coming in. Doesn't work. They prevent it somewhat. And for those people who were like, well, the N95 masks work really well. For most people, I would say okay, but I'm going to point out a small flaw in those masks. You have to have a seal around your nasal and oral orifice. If you don't shave this part of your face, you can't get that seal. That, or you put petroleum jelly there, and then make sure you've not got this. I'm not going to wear a mask because it's not going to do me any good. I've got this. I'm not shaving it off just for this. But if you're going to have hair, so unless you shave all around here, you need to use petroleum jelly and then stick that mask on that and not let it move. That's the only way to get that seal. Now, having gotten that out of the way, I hope you guys have a pleasant day. I want to give a shout out to Laura Witham, Gregory, Allen, Manuel, I think I got it right that time, Sprout, as I affectionately call him. He's got a new podcast with Dusty Grant. You go check that out if you want to. I don't care if you do or not. I mean, it's not like I'm getting free advertising anyway. Or it's not like I'm getting any advertisement. It's just me fluxing it out there. I want to thank, like I said, Laura Witham, Sprout, Sam Rowe. She does unknowingly throw some ideas out that I latched onto, or something that I latch onto and go with it. Sean Hamilton, whatever he's doing overseas. Hope to hear from him soon. Bob Holly, Robert Holly, whichever one you want to call him, I don't care. He's probably not going to even listen to this, but I'm giving him a shout out just because. And finally, Amy Sonster. There's a lot of things we don't agree on. Me and Amy don't agree about quite a few things. But she's still my friend, and I still get ideas from her, even if she doesn't even know she's giving me ideas. She's giving me ideas. So I just want to shout out to those people. Anybody who feels that they are missing from my shout-outs comment, I need feedback. I get that from Laura. Sprout acknowledges the fact that I do my podcast, and the fact that he's an artist and doing all the stuff he does, and he's acknowledging my podcast, good enough for me. I would ask for a few other people, but if you want a shout out, give me some feedback, okay, people. All right, well, I'm gonna get off here. I have to shrink this down and then put it up on YouTube. All right, peace out. Think safe. Wash your hands, and please keep your brain